Hello everybody, this is Frogman. Welcome back to Satisfactory. Last episode we got this monstrosity of a mess of a factory kind of up and running, and I've had it shut off for just a little bit of while here because I've been having to chase some certain problems. So right now it looks like we're making a massive amount of those things. We're not. We're just unloading the backlog that was on the system. I had to do a little bit of troubleshooting because, as always, when you build a structure kind of like this or a process kind of like this, you have to kind of troubleshoot things a little bit. But that's a full 270 belt. How much is that a minute? Oh, that's not terrible. That'd be great if I could keep that up. We'll get there eventually. I'm really happy to see that number sitting right about where it needs to be. Yeah, that is like 71 million. That's amazing. I'd love to be able to do that all the time, but we can't. I mean, there might be enough stuff in the world to be able to do that, but we'd have to find a considerable amount more power and a whole lot more time because I'm trying to get this over with, and I really don't feel like just going absolutely batty with it. But we had to do a little bit of troubleshooting in between episodes. So the first major troubleshooting that I had to do was I had to go re-synchronize these two trains right here. And it looks like I may have to go do it again because they were catching each other. I have no idea how they were catching each other, but they were catching each other. And again, it looks like they're catching each other. These are the two trains that provide the coal to the aluminum factory. It's just something that occasionally you have to kind of fiddle around. What is this one doing? Where is it going? You're the one heading back over there. Okay, yeah. I went quite a ways down the canyon over there before I went into that area, so we may have to come back in and like go grab a bunch more of the coal over here. There's a whole bunch of coal in that area, or this area entirely, and then there's some more down here. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and resynchronize those two guys because they're acting a little stupid. The problem was we were not getting enough coal flow into our aluminum factory, which means we weren't making enough aluminum, so we weren't making enough aluminum casings, which was causing this factory to have problems because we weren't making enough of those radio control units or the fuse modular frames. So it's just going to be something I'm going to have to keep an eye on as we go. And like I said, I had a whole bunch of stuff shut off because I was trying to figure out exactly how messed up we actually were, and I wanted to restock on a lot of these parts. So when the final push hits, when we decide we're going to start actually filling these things, I will probably shut this factory off completely, just let it build up a massive stock of those things, and then we'll just shove them down where we need to go and worry about it, and then whatever else is left is just going to get crammed into an awesome sink. So, on to I think the next big thing. Let's see if I can get down there from here. Down here, I finally made a use of the path signals, and the path signals, I guess, have a very special use, and it's the fact that they are capable of controlling kind of ugly intersections like this. So we've got three trains coming in from all over the place. Two of them from this direction, one of them from that direction. And the problem is this intersection is kind of a little, well, it has to be wonky because of where I ended up putting it. So what the path signals do is they look into the general area and see if the area is clear, and they stop. God dang these things.
Chaos and mayhem. World President urges all citizens to do their part and harvest alien artifacts.
I need to harvest all these up and get rid of them. But anyhow, what it does is it looks into the intersection. Instead of past it, doesn't look past it, it looks into the actual intersection. So if there's a train in this intersection, it will stop any of the other trains before they enter the intersection, but so that once until the other one leaves, I should say, until the other train that's in the intersection leaves. So that was causing a little bit of a backup there too. I had three trains stuck here because you'd have one come in and stop, and they'd be standing here, and then one would be back there locked up because there'd be one in this block. So essentially now what they're doing is they're looking ahead, and they'll stop out here instead of in the intersection. So if you have an intersection where you're having problems with trains getting through the intersection, put path signals on the beginnings of your intersection so that it's looking into the actual place. So we should be functional with that, at least for the time being. Now, who's this one? Let's see if we can catch this one. We need to kind of go and do a little bit of got it. Okay. Take a ride down here because we need to kind of go over and take a look at the area that we're going to be doing the nuclear pastas. Now, I'm going to kind of be silly. There's a big hole over there where all of that fog is, and I wonder if this train will let me fly over there. There's a big hole over here where this fog's at. I should say this fog is where this waterfall is. And excuse me 1 second while I take care of our friend here. I don't want to talk to you. Boom. All right, cool. I have the fog off right now. Hang on a second. Let's, that one? All right. This is what it normally looks like. So that waterfall pours water into these holes and you can't really see anything. And for me, I don't find the fog as immersive as I think they want it to be, but it does do some neat little patterns. You know, like you've got fog that for whatever reason is going down there. But anyhow, there's a big area right here on the map. And if we look at it as a big hole with another big hole right next to it, I'm going to build nuclear pasta stuff in either this. Well, we're just going to build it, I think, right inside that hole. So if I can get that to go away, we're going to try to kind of figure out how to make it look pretty, but it's a really large area as far as what we have to build. And yes, if you see the bottom of the waterfall, that's the void. That's pretty much how far. I mean, you can go down a little further than that, but once you fall past a certain point in there, you're dead and you don't get your stuff back. So it's going to be something we're going to have to kind of pay attention to. So the next step I think I want to do, once again, is we're going to have to figure out how much we actually want to do. Back up. I don't want to fall off this yet. We need to figure out exactly how many of these a minute we're going to fill. So let me do this just so we have an idea. We have something like 4 or 5 normal copper nodes in the general area. There's a couple right here coming into the area, into the green fields on this side. And then there's a couple, I think there's 3 down here, and they're all normal. And what is the... I'm really getting bad at this. I've got the scooties on, and I'm capable of doing the fast stuff. There we go. What is this? Is this water? I knew that there were a couple of these up here. Is this water or is this oil? Okay, so there's one of these right here, and there's another one right down there. So I don't know how much water that actually is, but we should be able to run a few refineries to take care of a few things. So the dang question then is, how much of a pain in the tail is it going to be to fill, I don't know, maybe 10 of those a minute. Now, 10 of those a minute is a pain. 10 of those a minute is a pain because it's going to require us to build multiple of these particle accelerators, of which I don't have any of the parts on me to look at. Hey, where are you? Oh, you're clear up there shooting at me. Go away. Let me go find a safe spot real quick and we can take a look at this recipe. I went ahead and just came back to base, mainly because it's kind of where we're going to have to go anyway to try to figure out how to make this system work. But basically what our problem is going to be is we're going to have to figure out how we're going to try to power as many of these as we can. Now, the reason why I was interested in building these in the big open hole that we're talking about is because they're huge. They're gigantic. They're the biggest machines in the game. So this is a particle accelerator, and this is what they do. This is what they look like. They're pretty stinking big. I was actually trying to see if I couldn't get it here. Let me have this and see if we can't get it at least in a foundation line so I can kind of figure this out, because I have an idea in my head how I want to do this, but they're ridiculously massive. They're, what is it, 3 foundations by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, so 4.5-ish, maybe more, almost. So 5 foundations generally for every single one of them, and they are, well, they're a monster. So the thing about a particle accelerator, for those of you that don't know, is that a particle accelerator has a duty cycle. It has a process cycle, and these, as we notice in here, it's 0.5 per minute, meaning it's going to take 2 minutes to make one of these, which means if we want to do even 10 of these a minute out of the stuff that we currently have, that means we have to make 20 of these in order to be able to make the thing work. And like I said, because of their duty cycle, at this point, or say for this recipe, it's going to spend anywhere between 500 megawatts and 1500 megawatts during that 2 minutes doing the cycle. Now, the average between those two is pretty simple, easy, is 1,000. So generally speaking, half of its time it's going to spend above 1,000 megawatts of power, and half of its time it's going to spend below 1,000 megawatts of power. So we should theoretically be able to get around a couple of things with this as far as the way stuff works. So currently, I have, in between episodes, let me just put it like this. In between episodes, I have been doing a lot of all over the world troubleshooting, and I'm hoping when I look at this, this isn't broken again, but I think I have this about where I want it. I have one of the, I think I have one of the generators, one of the fuel generators off. I had a lot of things wrong. Once again, kids, stay in school, learn how to count, or at least learn how to count past 10. I don't know why I kept messing up and kept building too many of the stinking things. But we ended up with, like, I don't know, I by the time I got it all said and done and everything else sorted and looked at and played with, the reason why I kept having a lot of trouble, mainly the reason why I had a lot of trouble, for one, and we're going to get into it when we get to it, but the reason why I had a lot of trouble was the fact that, for one, I had like one or two too many, and it's just due to a counting error on my part, and on the fact that, well, the thing about fuel, especially anything that has fluids with it, and I don't want to get into it too much, but if we talk about these pipes, and again, the pipes are a royal pain in the tail, so we'll talk about it very, very, very quickly before we go on to the next step. But if I grab a pipeline here, lineal pipe, either one of these two pipes, if I just do this pipe to here and just do that, and then I grab another one here, and we grab the other pipe, which I think I can make, I hope, anyhow. There's a thing about these pipes that, you know, you have to understand that I couldn't quite grasp and wrap around my head about, and it's the fact that they have an inventory. And the inventory is the same for both. It's the same size. It's just that one is capable of flowing at 600 cubic meters per minute, and one is capable of flowing at 300 cubic meters per minute. The thing they don't tell you is that the pipe and its inventory needs to be about there before it'll flow anywhere near that number. So if you're having trouble with your pipe networks, shut the machines off that they're attached to, the pipe net, like your fuel generators. If you're having problems getting flow through it, even though you know you're making enough, you're making all of the world and everything else, you're making way too much fuel, or you're making way too much whatever it is, just shut off whatever's connected to it. Let all of your buffers and all of your pipes fill up. Make sure all the inventories and all the machines are filled up. Make sure everything is backed up, and back stuffed. And then turn things on. If this pipe is full, it will always flow 600 meters. If this pipe is full, it will always flow 300. If it's not, they'll flow less than that. So we can get away with that. We can go on. We can move forward. I'm not going to mess with it. We can talk about it in another episode. We've got a lot of things we've got to do. Today we're going to do the math and the discussion on these, because the big problem again is we're going to have to start playing with water one more time because of the amount of copper that these things are going to eat, which is really scary. Again, I think we can probably get away with running 20 of these, and if so, running 20 of these, you're going to go, well, that's an awful lot of power. Well, no, it's not really. It's 20,000 megawatts. 20,000 megawatts, well, we have plenty of room, and actually, if I go shut some stuff off, we have even more. Plus, I'm going to do a little bit more background work. There's some more coal power that we can, for certain, fix, and it's still fluctuating or something's going on down here anyway, but I can get rid of some of this. I can get rid of quite a bit of this. So 20,000, you know, we could maybe make that work. I mean, I know it looks pretty ugly right there, but 20,000 would leave me about 7,000 megawatts to make all of the copper that we can possibly stand into making. So if we wanted to run 20 of these things, that would mean 2,000 copper powder per minute. And copper powder, not even mentioned, we'll worry about the power in a minute. 2,000 copper powder per minute, which would mean we need to, I think it's a constructor, right? Copper powder. Copper powder 2000. That's going to hurt a lot. So if I need 2,000 copper powder per minute, that's 2,000 divided by 50 is 40 of these. 40 of those times 300. Wow. Oh my goodness. 40 times 300. Oh, hey. That's a lot of copper ingots. That's a lot of that 12,000. That's a lot of copper ingots right there. I was talking maybe normal stuff, but I don't know at that point if we can get it. So these are all normal, right? I think these are normal. Yeah. Which would mean if I do this, that's 600 per minute. And I don't know why I just did that. I forgot what it was. What was it? This? 300? I think this was supposed to be 300. Yes, something like that. I gotta do a little bit more work. So 600 out of a normal 600 times 5. Now times 5. I haven't done this math yet. We still need to find another 9,000 copper. Wow. Wow. Crap. Let me think. What was the recipe for these? Let me look at this real quick. What is the recipe for the refinery? Can I make one? Hang on one second. There's several over here doing the work. Okay, so 15 goes into 37.5. So 3,000 divided by 15 be 200. 200 times 37.5 is 7,500. We're getting closer. That's going to require an awful, I don't mean a ridiculous amount of copper to do. And I mean, the really silly thing is there is this, I think it's this bank right here I'm not using. I'm pretty sure this bank right here has been running into an awesome sink since I built it. So there is some copper right here, but this might take pretty much what's left of the copper on the map, or at least in that area, to get this to work. So let's talk a little bit more about the math. I'm going to end up with, what did we say, 12,000 copper ingots. 12,000 copper ingots. If we do the work on that, 12,000. That'll be 320 refineries, which is going to take an awful lot of water, way more water than I think we've got. So we may end up having to bring a whole bunch of stuff to one place, bring it back to wherever. But anyhow, the other magical thing about these things, I guess what I want to talk about, is going to be the energy consumption issue here. And like I say, we're talking about it has a duty cycle. If I had some stuff to fill it with right now, I could show you. But basically what it does is it fires up, and for the first minute, it runs from 500 megawatts up to 1,500. So all the way over to there. And then from the next minute, it runs from 1,500 all the way back down, which means on average, it's going to be somewhere in the middle, not at either end, which is going to be around 1,000 megawatts. And 1,000 megawatts, if you're kind of short on power, like if we just wanted to run one of these, if we just like, you know, one or two, I think I could probably run 10 without a problem. So like, what is that? We have, just for giggles, we don't have quite 30,000, but say 25,000, right? So 25,000 divided by 1,500, you could technically run 16 of them right now without going over. You could run 16 of them and still have plenty of room. The thing that you can do, and this is one of those things we're going to do, and I know that I haven't used them at all, but I do know of them, is these guys, these power storages. They're batteries or they're capacitors. And what's interesting about this is that if we did, no, I want you to go the other way. Give me battery, give me there, and go that way. If we put 5 of these down, right? These fill, or should say, they charge and fill at 100 megawatts, but they can discharge as fast or as quickly as they need to. So since, like I said, half of the time this thing is going to spend, for an entire minute, generally speaking, it's going to spend under the 1,000 megawatts average that this thing is going to need, or say basically going to use halfway through. Well, if we stick 5 of these out here and let them suck up the rest of that 500 that's not currently being used by this thing in the beginning, so from here, well, from like here down, then it can charge. So that means there'll be a minute, actually there'll be a full minute, a full-on minute in the cycle of this thing where it'll be able to charge those batteries, which means that when it's above that, we can dump those batteries into that thing and not hurt the power. So that same interesting thing about that is this same interesting thing here. If I take that to 1,000 instead, it means we can run 25 of those things with the current amount of power that we have. I need to be able to run 20. I think we're probably going to try to shoot for 10 unless I have to go to the moon and go get some more nuclear power, of which if we really, and I mean really get bored, we can do that. It's a whole nother animal, it's a whole nother mess, and it's a whole nother headache and nightmare that I don't really want to feel like fooling with if I can get away with that number. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to try to run 20 of these things on the power we have using this, which means we're probably going to have to go into the base and shut some of the stuff down just so that we have plenty of room. But at that point, if I do 20,000 on what's sitting here right now, which is 39, again, that'll still give me a little bit of room, a little bit of wiggle room. Not a lot, a little. Unfortunately, again, if I want to say 20 of these things, it's just the amount of copper is going to be unreal to the point that we're going to probably go ahead and do a little bit more fooling around with it. Now, there are other ways of making copper. There are other ways of making copper ingots. I don't know if I can make a smelter. Where is it? Logistics, production, foundries. Give me 1 second. Let me go get some more rotors. All right, so foundry. If we place a foundry down, there is a recipe for an alternate copper alloy ingot, which takes 50 copper and adds 25 iron to it to make 100 copper ingots. So you're not quite tripling it, you're doubling it, but it doesn't cost near the power. 30 megawatts versus the 16, so exactly half the power. It'd take probably double the amount of these. I'm not going to do the math right now. I don't want to know. It's, what is it? Well, 100 is, we need 12,000, so we'd need 120 of these things. But still, that's actually, I mean, my math's terrible. Never mind my terrible math. But anyhow, like I said, we can. There's multiple ways to make the copper, and there's still lots of copper left in the world. But I don't exactly know how I'm going to plan on doing this. So I think next episode, and I've been kind of stretching these out. I've been trying not to, but I'm kind of stretching these things out. I think next episode, what we're going to do, I need to let the system run so that I can get, well, we need 20 parts enough for 20 of these and parts enough for 20 times 5. So, you know, every single one of those. So what is that, like 200 and something or 250 of those? And I know for a fact I probably don't have that. Well, I might have that many stuff of those things sitting in storage. But we're going to kind of try to come up with a really neat way to make this work. I mean, I might, for that matter, stick these underneath of it or on top of it. But I need to get these down and built before we start even fooling with this stuff, because they take a while to fill up. So every one of these particle accelerators will have 5 of them. And as I say, looking at the infrastructure and looking at the input in here, they take 100 megawatts for 1 hour, and they hold, I forget exactly what the number was that they held, but we haven't been using them mainly because we didn't need them. I don't want to watch them. But again, these are probably going to be what's going to allow us to run as many of these as we can and still have room to do the work on everything else. So I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kind of do a little bit more math and a little bit more figuring, a little bit more mapping, and a little bit more planning. And I will see you all in the next episode where we're going to start building that monstrosity and see, hopefully, that it goes reasonably quickly. So for now, I will see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Kind of a weird place to stop, but whatever. Bye.